Oh, one of my favorite categories. The best arcade games in 1992 when they still existed.
Where West was most of the time in the 80s and 90s.
Oh man, every chance I got. Every chance I got.
So now this is going back to how we opened the show, right? So the first game on this list is a different variant of that game because Jesus Christ, Capcom, they can't make just one version of their games or two versions of their games. They have to make 15 different versions of their games. This, of course, is another version of Street Fighter 2.
But we got a new title called the Championship Edition. And why was it different? You got to play as the bosses.
Yeah, this year also they released two. Again, Capcom. They released two new versions of Street Fighter in the arcade that year: World Warrior and Champion Edition, which is I'm sure there was like a slight variation. I know you mentioned the new characters already. I don't know exactly what the difference was, but in the arcades, this would have been very notable during that time.
Oh yeah, everybody was like super excited to play as like Bison right off the bat.
Yeah, no, that was
You
cool
know,
because that was in the Genesis version, and you could pick them as well there.
mhm. Bison. Vega. It was just because instead of fighting them, you got to play as them, and then people quickly got really really good at using them. That's for sure.
I never played. I mean, I did play with Bison every once in a while, but never really my go-to. I didn't like him that much. I really liked what's it, Zangief, the Russian.
Hmm.
I like playing as him a lot, and he was probably my favorite. I played as E Honda every once in a while. Who was your
Yeah.
go-to?
I started off with Chung Li, and then I kind of gravitated towards Guile.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, but then once the home versions came out, I kind of switched off to Ken.
Okay.
Because like it took me a minute to learn how to execute like my fireballs and my dragon punches and all that stuff. So it was like, in the arcade, using a joystick is totally different than a controller. Um, and it wasn't until like I got my hands on a controller at home was when I'd like actually perfected how to do a dragon punch. you know,
Yeah, like totally different. You have to
it
learn.
is. So yeah, so we had that, and then we also had like my favorite Mortal Kombat released that year too.
Mortal Kombat. Man, I mean, what a can you like? People don't understand how massive arcades were at this time. I mean, Street Fighter 2 is releasing new variants, which is like already like the most popular fight, and then Mortal Kombat comes out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like, who would have thought Street Fighter had any sort of competition? And then there's Mortal Kombat.
Yep, popped out of nowhere.
It brought its digitized graphics, made it seem really realistic, and it was for the older kids because it was bloody and gory as opposed to Street Fighter.
I think prior to Mortal Kombat, I think the only digitized game I remember seeing in the arcade was Pit Fighter, and that really wasn't like a fighting game.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah, it was like a Fight Club type, and you fought, and I don't know, but it was different.
There's
But
no
yeah, I
Mortal
remember
Kombat or Street Fighter. That's for damn sure.
that's for sure. Oh man, I remember walking into the arcade, and they just unveiled the Mortal Kombat machines, and I was it's like, oh my god, what is this? And turned it on and saw Sub Zero and Scorpion for the first time, and I was like, okay. But then as time went on, the lines kept getting longer and longer to play. It was good stuff.
I grew up in a smaller town, so we had like a small local arcade that was like attached to like a golf course. So they didn't have they had some arcade games, not a huge variety. And most of the time, you could walk on there and just get whatever arcade game you wanted without waiting. But not for Mortal Kombat. That game, people were lined up to play that. That's what happened there. It was like when you went from just hopping wherever, like, oh, what the hell, what's going on over here? It was like an event, man.
Yes, it was.
Everybody's crowded around the machine. Everybody's watching. Mm, good
Don't
stuff.
suck. Don't suck. You couldn't suck.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody.
I never played when people were there. I was like, I ain't playing against any of you guys. You know, I'll wait. No way. I ain't get my ass beat. Watching
you
people
know,
do like crazy moves and stuff.
oh man, you'd have a crowd of people watching you play, and you lose. You got to hang your head in shame and walk away.
That's how it was back then, man.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Different times. But there's still some more amazing arcade games from 1992, like X Men.
Man, four-player goodness right there.
This is one I never got to play, so I'm going to leave most of this conversation up to you. It looks awesome, but I never had a chance to play it.
You've never played the X-Men arcade game.
Mm-mm. Not that I
I could.
recall.
Oh man, it was at the height of. I really want to say that like the X-Men cartoon. Can't remember which one came first, but X-Men was like hugely popular, especially in the comics. So it was natural for them to do a game. They did four-player, and there was again, it was like one of those multiple. You had multiple cabinets because everybody played it. Everybody was
It was a
playing it.
4-player cabinet, right? So
Four-player.
the screen was bigger though, right? It was a
Yes.
larger screen, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Was it a fighting game though, or like what was it exactly?
It
Because that
was a side scroller. It was like Simpsons.
okay,
Um, yeah, it was like a side
like
scroller
a brawler,
beat 'em
but
up.
like an action sort of brawler type thing.
Correct. Correct.
Okay,
Um, yeah, it was like Turtles. Turtles. It was the same.
I think I might have played this actually. Was
Hmm.
Cyclops in it?
Yes, Cyclops, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Storm. Yeah.
I think I may have played that once or twice. I think this is sounding very familiar in my head now. I think I played that a couple times, but I really I couldn't. I mean, I barely remember. You know.
Really. Oh man, it became so popular. It's like it's still to this day, it's like hugely popular. Hugely
I mean,
popular.
in '92, I would have been 8 years old.
Hmm.
So I'm sure I still remember some stuff from back then, but I think I might have played it. That might have been at that arcade that I was talking about. It might have, if it was that popular, they always had like the most popular machines there, of course. So if it was that popular, maybe I did
Hmm.
play it once or twice. But I don't think it was my favorite game. But there was also probably people around there that I didn't, I was antisocial. It's like I'm not playing with these other people.
Yeah, it's not too long ago they released it for smartphones, on the Android market
Mm.
or
The
the
arcade version,
yes, yes. It's
interesting.
it's
Was it
it's
good?
it's great. It's great. Just got to get used to playing it, on a touch screen, with like moving around and stuff, but it's still there, man. It's still there.
I
So,
wonder if they ever re-released it on like 360 back in the day or Xbox One or anything because I would love to check it out.
I really want to say it was on the 360, like X Microsoft Arcade. Like they had a
Like a downloadable version.
yeah. I'm almost
Yeah,
positive.
I'll go back and look, but I'm sure it's been delisted at this point. I'm sure they don't have the rights to it anymore, unfortunately. But I would love to have played that, man. Hope maybe they'll re-release it. Who knows? They're
Yeah,
re-releasing all
man.
sorts of collections now. They'll give us the 90 crappy X-Men games and then like the two good ones will be
And then another good standout arcade game from 1992 was Virtual Racing.
Now this was a Sega game.
Yes, it was.
I know that because I have it on Genesis. And I've only played the Genesis version. I never played the arcade version. Have you played both? And if you have, how do they compare to each other?
I did play both. I played the arcade version like a lot because coming off the high of like Virtual Fighter and the whole polygons, it
You're like,
was
oh,
like
3D? Oh
yeah,
my
exactly.
god.
Exactly. Lawnmower Man was like hugely popular then. So it's like, the whole 3D, graphics and computer graphics and stuff like that was like the talk. And yeah, it seemed Virtual Racing was great. But then it came to the Genesis version and it didn't compare, obviously,
It was
because
like okay.
it was okay. I know
Mm.
they tried to redo it for the 32X, and 32X get a little bit more power. to kind of get closer to the arcade, but nothing could touch the arcade version.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just playing the Genesis version. I mean, you play it now, and it's like this is terrible. Like you play it now, like to today's standards, it's like this is how is this acceptable? But it's like you said, there was nothing or close to nothing like it at the time. So it was like, oh my god, this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It
You went up
was.
like a ramp too, right? Couldn't you like go up like a ramp and it was like a loop de loop or something?
I'm not sure if
Wasn't
that
that
was
in there?
virtual racing or if that was race driving. But there was another polygonal racer that, yeah, you did the loop de loop and like jumps and all that other stuff. But
I
virtual
feel like
racing was
it.
like all Formula One style racing, from what I remember.
Okay, maybe I'm mixing the two up then. I don't recall exactly, but man. Yeah, the Genesis version you guys can skip.
It's worth a play just to see what it is.